Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. We've got a hot topic for today's agenda. We've got Infor's GL Report Designer. We've got a lot of content, so we are going to jump right into it. We got myself and Todd here to spend the next 30 minutes or so with you. This isn't necessarily a training. We want to show the product, show what it can do, feature functionality, look at some sample reports, and also highlight our service offering, how we can enable you on the tool and get the most out of it. If you have questions, that's amazing, and thank you. Put those in the chat. We'll get to those at the end. We've got some content to get through, and then we'll hit those questions at the end here. My name is Chris Gordon. I'm the practice manager for the finance team. And before that role that I'm currently in, I was a consultant for about 9 or so years with RPI. Currently coming to you from Garnet Valley, PA, which is a small suburb outside of Philadelphia. Before that, I had been in Baltimore for a very long time and gone into RPI headquarters every single day there, but moved recently to be closer back to home. And that's where I'm coming to you from today. And I'm joined with Todd Erickson. I'll kick it over to Todd, who's got a lot of experience in the Report Designer tool. He's probably spent more time in there than anyone at RPI. And I'm glad to have him help us through this session today.
Thanks, Chris. Again, my name is Todd. I am a senior consultant here at RPI. I've been with RPI almost 2 years, but I have a friend at Infor. She likes to say she's a recovering accountant, so I like to say I'm a recovering FP&A person. So I spent a little over a decade in FP&A and doing all those fun month ends, and now I've decided to join the pirate ship here at RPI. And I'll leave the rest of that alone. So
cool. Appreciate it, Todd. All right, like I said, we're gonna break this into 3 sections. We'll do a product overview. We'll get into some navigation along with that. Sample reports, we wanna show you what the solution, what the reporting tool can produce, and then how we can help you. So let's first kick it off with our product overview. It was a month ago, April 17th, where the GL Report Designer became generally available to everybody. Why? Why did that come? Why was that an offering? Well, there's been an operational reporting gap for finance and accounting. We've seen this firsthand, right, in our projects. You're probably joining because you might have been experiencing the same thing too. We've heard that from the market. The Infor Report Designer is Infor's beginning to fill that gap, beginning to fill that operational reporting gap. This is the starting point. Of course, there's still your online analysis forms like, account analysis or trend analysis, things like that, under your GL My Report section. But it's different, right? Those are analysis forms. You got to go to them, you inquire on the form. It's not a report. Right, the Report Designer is a reporting solution that will give you, the report that you're used to looking at, not an online analysis type form. We, Todd and I and some others on our team, we've been working with Infor since the beginning of the year. Infor's done a really good job of enabling us and their partners since the beginning of this year, all the way up and through April 17th. To enable us on the tool so that we can do what we're doing today, enable you. That originally was supposed to be about like a 2-month-long enablement from like January through February, but we were in there, we were in the weeds, we were digging into things, and that stretched that enablement to be basically 4 months to get us all the way through GA. So a big thank you to Infor for allowing us that opportunity and putting us in the position we are now to help the rest of the market. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of activation requests for GL Report Designer. The demand's there, and we see that, we know that, we hear it. We're excited to start this. I feel like, in a sense, this is day one of a very long journey. This is a product is brand new. It's going to evolve. There's going to be feature functionality added to it. There's going to be bug fixes to eliminate some of what we're seeing today. Infor is committed to the solution. We're excited to see this evolve and adapt over time. We're most excited to help you through that process and be with you during it. Okay. This is not going to be the last time we do one of these webinars. We'll definitely come back in October when there's a bigger release and there's more to it, and we can walk you through that. But in between now and October, we want to do another webinar. We will do another webinar diving into a report, building it, getting behind the scenes. How did we build this one specific report so you can get a firsthand look? Okay. There is a one-stop shop for all things GL Report Designer. Infor Knowledge Base Article 2293248. This, as you can see here, it's got links to a lot of different things. Your activation prep steps. There's a known issues list, right, that Infor has published, highlighting bugs, things like that. There's documentation, there's training videos, and other calendar invites too. So want to just keep that up there, write that number down, go to it, sign up for it. You'll get notifications as updates are made, but that's a really good first place to start. Okay, so with that being said, we'll kick it over, Todd. I think you've got a few things to run through here with the report designer. I'll hand it off to you.
All right, thank you. And just wanted to kind of echo that the KB article, that master KB article, is definitely a one-stop shop. I still use it when I want to look at how I want to build a report. If I've got a question, it really has everything. So I would definitely recommend going to that KB article, even if you already have Report Designer downloaded. So what is Report Designer? The Report Designer is a standard FSM application with the usability targeted towards a staff accountant. It has the ability for high-speed financial data refresh under the control of the business user. Right? The whole point here is enabling the user. A lot of these reports and tools we have are other people need to build it, other people need to help you involved. This is a one-stop shop for the business user itself, which is why this is so exciting. So a staff accountant will be able to easily define and run ad hoc GL reports without needing IT to create a report or having extensive knowledge or training of LPL and complex expressions. The report designer also uses standard landmark reporting sharing and report distribution to support other business users in the organization. So that is a quick, very high level, paragraph of what is the report designer. So moving.
Yeah, big takeaway there. It's targeted to the staff accountant, right, Todd? Like, this is minimal IT support needed.
Yeah.
Controllers, accounting managers, staff accountants.
It's pretty exciting. So when it comes to then reporting data in your financials, one of the largest things we have to, worry about is the security roles. So there's actually two types of security roles with the GL Report Designer. A role that can edit and create, which is called the power user, and a role that can view reports, the view only. Now, a lot of people have custom roles. So for all custom roles, you'll need to add the security class to the role you've created.
Okay. We're going to get into a few different screenshots, and I figured let's spend a little bit of time orienting ourselves before we just start showing screenshots. So what does this place look like? Maybe some of you have navigated out there. If you've activated it and you've seen it in your tenant, whether that's production or non-production, maybe you haven't. Maybe this is the first time you're ever hearing about it and you want to know a little bit more. But there's a landing page, a home page for Report Designer. And across the top, you'll see the designer dashboard. You've got a reports section, a row view section, and a column view section.
Okay, first-
Now, for some of you from version 10, version 9 that are familiar with Report Writer, some of that terminology might sound familiar. We've got rows, we've got columns. Not exactly a direct comparison to Report Writer. It's got some crossover and carryover terminology, but I can see why you start to think that way a little bit.
To point out two things, Chris, if you don't mind. So obviously this is the home landing page. So to get there, on your left-hand side, you're going to go to your global ledger, and then underneath global ledger, you're going to go into my reports, and then under my reports, you will go ahead and see report designer. And that's going to be the same regardless of the viewer. If you are a power or view only, it's going to be the same steps to get to report designer. The only difference from this page between the two security roles is that generate report button you're seeing sort of in the middle of the screen. That is what's going to be differentiated between your power user and your view only user.
Great. All right, so you'll start building out your reports. You'll see them in the dashboard. Click on that report off to the left. And then on the right side, you'll see the row definition behind that report, the column definition, report parameters. Todd's going to get into what those all actually mean in a minute, but it's a nice dashboard. Moving across the top, we've got the reports panel. This is a catalog or an inventory of all the reports you've got in that tenant. Anyone that has access, whether that's the power user or the view only user, can see these. It's a listing of everything you've got. And then we'll go one more over to our row views. This is an inventory of all the rows that you build out, right? As Todd's going to show you in a minute, prereqs are creating your columns, creating your rows, and this is the master list for where the row is stored and where you can come back and manage or maintain it. And then same idea with columns. You're building out your columns, how you want the columns to show on the report. You define that here. Here's all the listings within that tenant and specifics behind each. Okay, so that's our homepage. Hopefully that helps orient you as what we're looking at. We're going to get into the creation process, the report generation process within Infor Report Designer. And for that, I'll kick it over to Todd.
All right, guys. So again, kind of repeating what we said earlier, the whole purpose of this tool is to empower the end user, to the staff accountant or the analyst looking at this. So there was a big emphasis on we need an easy, simple way to build a process, to build a report. And actually, Infor has come up with basically a 4-step process, 4 easy steps. And at the end of these 4 steps, you'll actually have a report. So to kind of go through the 4 steps here really quickly, step 1 is to create a row view. As we saw earlier, that is one of the column headers. So we are going to build a row view of how we want to see data. Step 2 is you build a column view of how you want to see data. And then step 3 is combining the two together. And then step 4 is generating the report. It is that simple. There obviously are some mini steps within each of the steps, but as long as you kind of follow that cadence, you will get a report at the end of this, which is pretty exciting. So it is a huge focus on the user. So diving right into the first step, building the row view. You go ahead and start a brand new row view for a new report, again, on that 3rd tab at the top, and you would go ahead and create a row view. When you are asked to create a row view, you will get a new prompt with many questions being asked. Some are, what dimension do you want? Would I like this to be a financial dimension 1, or my department? Do I want this to be my chart of accounts? You know, you pick the dimension you're looking for. You can also pick or select, do I want posting level only, or do I want to go ahead and show kind of the outline of my chart of accounts? And then things like, do I want my totals at the top, or do I want my totals at the bottom? So there are some things within the row view that you go ahead and click and customize. And again, with those in-depth processes, we, like Chris said, we'll be going through another webinar. We just kind of want to get you grounded and kind of up to speed on the overall process of how this works. So those are some of the things you'll fill out when you create the row view. Once you've created the row view, you are going to go ahead and hit save and close it up. And at that point, we are completely done with step one.
Todd, are we limited to just one row on the report?
Yeah, great question. So you will only need to create one row view per report. However, you can have multiple dimensions or multiple columns, so to say, within your row view. So if I wanted to break out my cost center and my chart of accounts, I could go ahead and do that on my row view. Good question.
Great.
So moving
All right,
on
we'll get
to
into the
step
column
two.
view.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
No, you're good. Take it away.
So the one main difference between a column view and a row view, and I do not want to get too in the weeds for this right now, is that for a column view, we have to build each column individually. For example, if I have a report that I want to have like an actuals, a budget, and a variance column, I would need to make 3 individual columns within my column view. So that's a tad different than the row view, right, Chris? Because the row view, I go ahead and just select the chart of account, and then it populates all of it. I don't need to make multiple row views if I have a chart of account and a cost center. So just a little bit difference there, just a little nuance. But it actually makes a lot of sense when you go through and building it. I actually prefer it that way. So some of the things, the prompts you'll get asked when creating a column view is the main one is it going to be a standard or a calculated column? Again, we'll go into that later, but the main difference is just that, is this a pull from the system, or am I actually adding calculations to this report from existing different columns? Other things that you'll be asked to when doing a column view is name the column. That's another thing I really like about the column view, is that whatever I name it is going to be at the top of the column, which is great. So name the column, and then how big do I want this column to be? Not all columns need to be the same size. So the genius behind this is they're not going to kind of give you a standard column size. You get to pick, do I want it 10 characters? Do I want it 20 characters? You kind of get to be in the driver's seat there. So those are a few of the steps that you'll be asked to when creating a column view. So then step 3 is as simple as it sounds. We're going to go ahead and name the report, give it an ID and a title, and then the only 2 things required is adding a row view like we did in step 1. So whatever row view you created, you can go ahead and add that to the row view. You can see the screenshot at the bottom, and then you would just add your column view. At that point, you're technically done with step 3. Now, there are some cool things you can do, like add more report selections, add some parameters, if you really want to start jazzing this report up. However, that is not needed, and we're not going to really go into that at this time. So again, for step 3, we just give it a name of the report, we add our column, and we add our row view, and that's all that is required. So in step 4, all we're going to go ahead and do is generate the report, set the preview, and then run. So you may be asking me, what's the difference between generate and run? That's a great question. So think of generate as building the outline, and running the report is looking at something specific. So metadata versus data. Got to give you a little IT jargon there. But once the report is generated, it is good to go, unless you make structural changes. So if I change my column view or I change my row view that is attached to the report, then I'll have to regenerate it, right? I have to rebuild that model, or the sort of the backbone of the report, and then I just reset the preview and rerun the report. So we're doing a lot of talking and not a lot of showing of the reports. So what I wanted to show you here is exactly what you see in the system. So I did 1, 2, 3, and 4. I did all of my steps. I'm previewing the report. This is what you're going to see. This is a final version of Report Designer Preview Report. So my favorite thing about this is you can see in the screenshot on the right-hand side from the preview pane, I am able to export to PDF. I'm able to do a data dump with a CSV, or I can do a normal Excel export. So from the preview pane, I can go ahead and do my next step. I don't have to go to a different page. I don't have to do anything. And if I want to edit the report, I can. I can go back to the row view, make an edit, regenerate, and I'm right back at this preview screen.
Okay. Thank you, Todd, for that. That was nice to see how the report's embedded in there. You don't actually have to run the report before you can see it. It's there, you can make adjustments, go back and rerun, and you're all still in the designer. That's pretty nice stuff. Okay. I mentioned back on slide 1 or 2, this is a new product, and there are known limitations. There's known bugs as to what this product can do right now. There is a roadmap or an evolution map of the product that Infor has mentioned, and more robust functionality will be built into the solution in the future. For right now, some of the big ticket items that Todd and I and the team have seen when we've been into the system trying to build and dig, no bursting. You don't have the ability to burst that report out to a person or multiple people quite yet. No drill back. So taking a balance on the report, drilling into it and seeing the transactions that make up that balance. Can't do that yet. The report designer is only looking at balances for right now. It's not looking at transactional data. So it's looking at GL totals, not GL transaction. And there's some limitations around conditional formatting and calculated columns. Like I said earlier, October 2023, it's the next major evolution of the Infor report designer. If you're not aware, Infor has scaled back to a twice-a-year release in April and October. So that lines up with that October release schedule. And if there is a big enough enhancement, there's a possibility of having that, released before. But for now, it is April and October as the big releases there. For October, this is what we've heard, that there's potential there for having that drill back functionality in the reporting tool for phase 1 bursting and for composite reporting. Okay, so add-ons to the existing product, bug fixes, and some enhanced functionality here. I referenced that KB article again. If you weren't here earlier, that's that KB article that is your one-stop shop for all things GL Report Designer. It's got the release notes, it's got the known bugs, it's got training documentation too. So that's out there for you to look at. Okay. Todd, I'll kick it over to you. We'll do a little bit more show and tell of actual reports in the system, just so the audience can see what the final product can look like, and take it away.
Absolutely. Again, I know this is why you're really here. So wanted to kind of show off 2 reports for you guys. The first one here is just a quick BVA, right? We're going to do a budget versus actuals, and we have our month to date with a variance and a year to date with a variance. And again, this is a final product from the system. And to kind of give you a quick look under the hood, for the row view, all it is chart of accounts, right? I've got my chart of accounts and I'm showing it at 5 levels. So remember, I can either show posting or I can level it off. For this one, I started with 5 levels from the top. So you can see net income, I'm going 5 levels, net income, operating income, net revenue, and then there's my 5th, my posting account. So all to get that, all I had to do was for my row view, pick chart of accounts at 5 levels. Done. Pretty easy, which is pretty exciting. The next one for the columns, So we had to make 6 columns for this, and there are 4 standard columns and 2 calculated columns. So the 2 calculated columns are your monthly variance and your year-to-date variance. And again, all that is doing is it's not pulling any data from the system. I told it, hey, I want one column minus another column. And so that's all that is there, giving us our monthly variance and our year-to-date variance. For our next report, I wanted to kind of pivot off of the chart of account. I know most reports go off charts of accounts, but not all, and Report Designer is flexible that way. It does not have to do chart of accounts either. So for this little sample report, this is just an FD1. It's FD1 month to date and year to date. In this example, the FD1 is the department in this sample data here. So for the row view, this is just FD1 at 3 levels. And as you can see, corporate headquarters, administration, and then I'm into my payroll, accounting, legal, purchasing. So that is my FD1 at 3 levels. And then that is the exact same column view. So for best practices, I wouldn't actually use the same column for multiple reports, because remember, we talked about earlier, if I change the column view, any report that's using that column view then gets messed up as well. So it's as easy as taking the column view from the first report, copying it. You can even call it copy 1 for this report name, add it to this, and you've done all the work. So this is a great example how there may be some work to set up the reports, but once you have your columns set up, once you have rows set up, combining them to make new reports is actually very simple, which is very exciting.
Awesome. So jumping into our third and final section before we open it up for some Q&A and address some of the questions that have come in, I want to present how we can help. Like I said before, Infor has enabled us to enable you, and we're in this position to hopefully help. And we want to be there as the product evolves and be your go-to partner to help meet your reporting requirements and help you get the most of the Report Designer. So what we have as an offering is a remote 4-hour training with a 40-hour bucket of on-call report building support. Breaking that out into the training and support components, there is training, which is done in your environment with your data. You're not going out to like a lab or a remote tenant that doesn't have your data. We would do this in your non-production environment, which is so helpful, right? We get to use your own chart of accounts, your own transactional data from maybe a month ago, and build reports within that tenant. We wouldn't cap attendees. You could have anywhere from 2 to maybe 12 people in this remote training session. The price doesn't adjust based on that at all. It's a fixed fee training engagement. You probably want to cap around that 15 marker, because the more you get, the more inefficient or ineffective that training could be. But essentially no cap on who attends. 4-hour training, but RPI would do a lot of work beforehand. So we'd get into your system, we'd build 3 reports for you. Those reports would facilitate training. So we'd build an income statement report, a budget to actual, a balance sheet report, and then you get to keep them. They'll stay in your non-prod system, and you can use those to reference to help build out additional reports on top of it. And we use those reports that we build to help lead training. So training consists of a product overview deeper than we dove today. And then it would go into those report building workshops where we take the income statement by department that we built for you and we build it by scratch together. So your team, your staff accountant, your controller is getting the hands-on in the reporting tool with us there on that session to help through. And then probably around that 2 to 3 hour marker, we let you go for a little bit. There's 30 minutes of just playtime. You've digested a lot of information. you started to play around and now some quiet time for you to go let that sink in, do your thing, and that'll lead into a nice Q&A to finish everything up. There's a support component too. So if you need help building reports, we're here to help. If you're in the process of building out a production report and you've hit a roadblock, or you need advisory support to get around something, call us. We'll be on call support for 60 days from the time of training. So 60 days after that training happens. And that bucket of hours can be whatever you need, whether that's a 40-hour bucket, 24-hour bucket, or even larger. And it's only billed as incurred. So if all that sounds interesting, you want more details, just email questions@rpic.com to learn more. Like I said, for us, this is all about enablement. It's a new product. Todd's got many, many hours and days of experience in the solution, along with other people on our team. We're equipped and ready to help you make the most out of that reporting solution. I mentioned it before, but we will have another report designer webinar at a date TBD, probably in the next couple of months, where we'll go deep into a single report, get dirty, and show how that was built, parameters, report generation, all that good stuff. Okay, that wraps it up for us here. I do see a couple questions. See two for right now. Let's see, Scott, if we use the account analysis today to pull large amounts of data, runs slow or bombs out, does this avoid that? So that account analysis, it kind of depends where you're exporting. If you're exporting at the transaction level from account analysis, you're not going to be able to get that same transaction level export from the report designer because it's not looking there quite yet. It's just looking at balances. I don't know, Todd, if there's anything else there for you to add in terms of like exporting and runtime and things like that, but
yeah, so I would say if the report is pretty large and you're trying to pull a large canvas of numbers, we're talking, 10 columns wide, and, it's going to be a 20-page report, it will take a minute to render its first go. When you are trying to generate the report and it's building the metadata out, it will take a minute. It won't take long, and I have never seen it take longer than a minute or two. Again, that's to generate it or to run it the first time. Once the report kind of has the metadata there, it runs pretty quickly. I have not run into an issue where it just lags out or spools or anything of that nature. None of that issue yet.
okay. There's also another question there, if commitments or encumbrances are currently available to add to these reports. My response, Todd, would be if it's in GL totals, we can get to it.
Yep, that's correct. Anything in your FEG is ours to take. So if you have commitments encumbrances, then we can go ahead and pull those out for sure.
Got it. Another question here is if report designer is available in version 10. Then that answer is no. It's a Cloud Suite solution. It does report real-time data. It's going off of GL totals. So whenever GL totals is refreshed, your report is looking at the most recent data.
Yeah, and I just want to, just because everybody has their own version of real-time data and it's a hot button, I just want to, quick disclaimer, it can be real-time data. It is definitely refresh. Whenever the data is refreshed, it will show up through there. But when you're talking real-time data, we would have to get a more specific question to give you a specific answer. But blanket statement, yes, it's going to give you up to the day data. So real-time data in that sense, correct.
Okay, and another question about activation. We've got it in production. And I think, Todd, they'll get it in two tenants, a production and a non-prod, whether that's a test or a training.
That's correct. So currently, because it is a very hot topic and you have to push to enable it, or asked to be enabled it. Infor has done a really nice thing where they're just letting only 2 tenants be provisioned so that everybody kind of gets a piece of the pie. So we recommend you asking for prod and then whatever tenant you use most. So if that's train, if that is test, whatever it is, we recommend prod and then a non-prod environment. You get those 2 up front with your activation. And then once Infor kind of gets around to everybody, all of your tenants will then be provisioned to GL Report Designer.
Great.
Yes, it does use rep sets. Correct. It's columnar based.
And just to touch on what you were talking about before there, Todd, the KB article does have the activation link, so that can help you with the steps to follow with Infor to get those tenants activated.
Correct. Yep, and the steps are pretty easy. I've used it to enable a client myself, and it's the KB article is very straightforward, and I was able to get them activated, but with ease.
Okay. That looks like everything for now. I really appreciate everyone joining. This was hopefully helpful for you, and depending on where you're at in this process, whether you're just starting to get activated or you've been in there for a little bit trying to play around, we're here to help. Like I said before, reach out to questions@rpic.com if you need to, if you've got any questions, and we'll be back. Todd and I will be back in the next couple months, and hopefully we see a lot of the same people here. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.